So the first thing that we do is one, be sure that you read the question and understand it. That's really probably one of the more important things, and a lot of times that gets overlooked because people want to you want to dive right in and get it done or whatever, which is great, but it's really important that you make sure you know what it is that you're being asked to do. Second thing is organize a response. To make sure you do it. Just do a brief organization so you know where you're headed. After you do that, then organize your information to be able to write your little organized response, and then actually collect your information and then write a response. And I'm hoping the whole thing wouldn't take more than 10-15 minutes, maybe 20 max. Okay, so the question that I'm going to practice and show you work on is, how did the role of the federal government change toward U.S. foreign policy from the Articles of Confederation to the Monroe Doctrine. Okay, so I will show you how a way to to organize and write a successful response. One with that's maybe not perfect, but pretty good. And then it'll be your turn. So the first thing, I'm looking at here, the role. How did the role of the federal government? So I'm focusing on the role of the federal government. All right, that's one thing I'm really focused on. Then, but it's also about change. How did the role of the federal government change in those times? Change over time, toward foreign policy, of course, but then it's between these times, between the Articles of Confederation and Monroe Doctrine. So, okay, so I'm looking at, so there's my time frame, what it's asking me about, and I'm looking for change in the role of federal government. That seems doable. Alright, so what I'm going to do is organize my response. So to answer how did the role of government change, the role of government, and I'm writing these in the form of notes. So the role of government changed in two major ways. There's that first paragraph. Second paragraph, Art of Confederation, confusion, no policy. That's it. Okay, then in George Washington. No permanent alliances. no permanent alliances, and the role of government was clear, leader, stronger, like that. And then the third one is expand Monroe, expand influence and area of power. Okay, so now I've got a little bit of organize my response, so in case I forget while I'm going, I'll know what I'm doing. I know where I'm headed mostly. Okay, so now I've got to organize the information. The question I'm trying to answer is the government role in foreign policy. Alright, how did it change? Okay, so I have to focus on the government role. Alright, so let's see how it changed. Well, in the Articles of Confederation, there was confusion. And the government really had no role because it was so weak. Okay, that's the first part. Then the government role here was because there was a president. They had more power, and so the role of the government was to define foreign policy at this time, which Washington did. And then the war with Britain, and then the Monroe Doctrine. Not only did they define it, he defined it more and changed it. It was stronger stated, and I think the government felt more confident because they've won this war, so they felt much more confident a few years later to be able to say, stay out. So the government role was to sort of assert U.S. power more, use U.S. power more with the role. So my next step is to get some information, make sure I have information about the Articles of Confederation and I said there was no foreign policy there. So the role of government was, at least federal government, was gone, not there. So Articles of Confederation, no role. So what do I have for that? Well, first of all, I'm going to use this document here that explains the treaty that was gotten that sort of ended the war and revolution, and then the Articles of Confederation, a summary here about what the weaknesses were. Of course, no chief executive who could conduct foreign policy. They lacked an army, and they could not get tax money to be able to create one, and they also could not control or deal with foreign commerce with other nations. So the first thing we'll talk about is that, the commerce, which of course is trade and business. All right. No role in federal government. Why? Because power in the states. So Britain dealt with the states. So I would say that's no role of the federal government. Also, there were British, if we look here, there were British on American soil. They kept their forts. If you remember this little map, they kept their forts in there. And there was no role of the federal government because there was nothing Britain on U.S. soil, and no role because the U.S. had no army to enforce a policy, and could not tax to get an army to enforce a policy. So that pretty much meant that they had no role in foreign affairs under the Articles of Confederation. The next step is to take the role of government that comes next, which is during George Washington's farewell address. It is stated, and so I am claiming that the role of government here is to define foreign policy. So I need to just be clear how he did this. In a sense, he outlines in his speech in the farewell address, Washington says, our rule of conduct for us, the great rule of conduct. So he emphasizes how we should behave in regard to foreign nations. So really he defines, this lays out what he thinks the United States should be doing with foreign nations. So I don't need to go on and say what the definition is. It's just that the fact that he outlined it, has the power. He has been the president, or he is the president, has the power, and he is very confident and clear about defining what the policy is. And essentially, he says that we'll have as little connection, even though we'll have business dealings with them, as little connection as possible. No permanent alliances, but temporary ones as needed. So he makes a very clear guide. So this is a definite change from what foreign policy, the role of government was a few years earlier with the Articles of Confederation. So we'll add that on to my sort of outline here. The role in 1796 under the Constitution that President established, and with power to deal with foreign nations. So there's it's part of his job description. He has clear statement what U.S. should do, which he just says extend commerce. So he's not saying hide. Extend commerce. Little political connection. No permanent alliance. Temporary when needed.